We're the Diane Feinstein headquarters here on the internet, where America gets its Diane Feinstein news. You can check the channel for other Diane Feinstein videos. She died. She worked right up until she fucking died. She probably died being handed a giant stack of money from a corporation. They really squeezed the blood out of that one. And she made herself incredibly rich over her time. I think she married some real estate dude. Just a complete ghoul. NBC doesn't like my ad blocker here, so we don't have a headline on screen. Ah, fuck. All right, so here, news report.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Savannah Guthrie.
Good morning. We come on the air with breaking news. Senator Diane Feinstein, the longest-serving female senator in U.S. history, has passed away. She was 90 years old. Two sources familiar with the matter confirming that this morning.
Look,
Diane Feinstein,
that lady has a dangly cross earring. I always notice the dangly. Any earring where it dangles way past like normal physics. That's magic, man. That's wizard stuff.
With the matter confirming that this morning. Diane Feinstein, first elected in 1992, representing the state of California for more than...
Representing the corporations of the globe, not the state of California. She never looked out for California. She represented the state of global corporate dominance. She was a corrupt scumbag of the highest order. When they say speak no ill of the dead, they're trying to get you to not talk about the powerful people in the world or your parents, you know. I mean, you know, use discretion when you're giving a speech at someone's funeral or at the post-funeral. Don't call it, I almost called it a quinceanera. Party? What's a wake? What do you do? Anyway, this lady supported corporate policies at first. And so that means she harmed people. And that's one of the things that I've been dialing in a little bit lately is not that it's so obvious. It's just right. But like anytime someone, a worker or like a regular person's life is improved because of a policy, that's a hit to a corporation's bottom line, generally. That's why they resist all these regulations that protect us. American bodies are flooded with chemicals, PFAs, food ingredient shit, chemicals that are in your tooth, all this stuff all over that are banned in Europe because our government is bought off by bribing people like Diane Feinstein to prevent any kind of regulation to protect your body because they make a little bit more money doing that. And then they also regulate the way lawsuits are allowed and shit like that. So, but it's just such a obvious, stark truth, and also an argument for why we need to end this stupid fucking destructive system that when a person's life is improved, a corporation makes less money. And because they can own the government, they make it so that in order to make more money, they worsen people's lives. They make you work longer. They make you store their chemicals in your body. They make you have to deal with, well, those are the main things. It's just like the employment practices and the culture that you don't get to go see any health care because your job doesn't have any benefits. But if you quit working, you go hungry and you can't afford to live somewhere. So you keep working through pain until you're permanently disabled, or at least hopefully I can get some. I really have no idea if I'll ever be okay with my hands. I'm pointing at my wrists for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube. All right, let's just keep going.
30 years. She faced persistent health problems in recent years.
Yeah, she's been dying for 40 years. She was 90. You start dying at age 50. She was looking pretty bad. There are some 90-year-olds that are like, damn, she's still going to the casino. Look at her. She's cruising around. She's got a boyfriend. Then you go, man, I hope they're not fucking. And then you go, hey, you know what? I hope they are. I hope they are. And I'm going to try not to imagine that, but good for them. Horny 90-year-olds. I don't want to be horny. I hate being horny. It's fun when you can do something about it with someone else. That can be very, very quite evolutionarily satisfactory. Your instincts are always applauding, going, all right, this is cool. But it's so boring. I mean, actually, no, it's not. That's not the word. It's just too much. I don't want to be a horny old person, especially. I'm already a gross, horny old person, I feel like. But let's get rid of that. Why can't I turn that off? If Elon Musk invents a cookie, why did I say cookie? A chip to put in your brain, a chocolate cookie for your head that goes, and then you don't have to feel horny. Fine. So what if I have to listen to him talk? Maybe the way that works is just him reading something. That guy, that fucking moron, that stupid, deranged idiot, just turning your libido into mush, just like he's done to Twitter.
Leaving quite a legacy as well. NBC's Andrea Mitchell with a look back at her life.
Oh, Andrea Mitchell.
Diane Feinstein, a leading
Married to Alan Greenspan. Don't imagine that.
woman senator for generations, whose political career in California was launched by tragedy. November 1978,
Milk.
San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Board of Supervisors member Harvey Milk were assassinated in City Hall. Then Board of Supervisors President Diane Feinstein tried desperately to save...
Okay, we're not going to see... Are they going to get to the Confederate flag thing where she flew the fucking Confederate flag outside City Hall and repeatedly put it back up after activists eventually cut down the pole? No. Here's the replacement. Laphonza Butler. So Gavin Newsom, boy, he's been on a tear lately, just ripping down things that are being passed. Like Gavin Newsom has been vetoing striking unemployment protection for striking workers. He has a few other things. I'm not actually going to get into it in much detail today. I have decided I'm going to at some point for sure. Why did I get into that? I don't know. Let's just listen to this. Oh yeah, so he had promised he was going to replace Feinstein with a black woman, which is good. Oh shit, hold on, see, I'm getting a phone call. Gavin Newsom, I'm for that. Yeah, let's get some more representation. I think that's a good thing. Let's go for it. People on my side of the aisle wanted Barbara Lee, but of course he went with a lady who lived in Maryland and is a head of Emily's List, and she's known as being a very effective fundraiser. And there's a whole bunch of, meaning she's already got the connections to take the corporate bribery. So they've just taken an incredibly corrupt corporate goon like Diane Feinstein, replaced her with a more representative corrupt corporate goon named Laphonza Butler. And this person has a history. If you watch the mainstream media, they'll talk about her labor leader. She was in the SEIU for a stretch. But what they usually leave out is her role in supporting Uber as part of the campaign to keep their labor force under control. There's this law called AB5 that was passed in 2019, it was signed in 2019 for sure. So that's an interesting part of the story there. And she also consulted with so she's got this corporate backing, and she's as soon as you're on the side of Uber against the workers, you're scum. You're just another. That erases anything you've done in the past. I'm sure she's paid incredibly well, so not a shocker. I mean, obviously, we would expect this kind of thing from someone from Gavin Newsom. Guy's been praising Reagan. Like, he's got a whole list of stuff he's been doing that's just all terrible stuff. So here, this is Fox 11 Los Angeles.
After her death, Governor Gavin Newsom has made his choice to replace Senator Diane Feinstein. She is Laphonza Butler, a Democratic strategist and current president of Emily's List, an organization that supports Democratic women candidates.
Butler was also an advisor to Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign, and she is expected to be sworn in by Vice President Harris on Wednesday.
Oh, that's cool. Vice President Harris. Another corporate goon. I can't bring her up without bringing up when she was DA or made DA in California. She quashed an ongoing investigation into the Catholic Church for all the child abuse and the even words worse than abuse. For the algorithm, I'm trying not to say the word grape. On TikTok they say grape. Yeah, there was an investigation happening, and victims were seeking restitution, and it was like a formal thing within the previous DA's office. And Kamala Harris came in and said, "What? I'm not going to go after the Catholic Church. Those people are fucking. They got money and they got property. I'm a demon. I'm here to serve them." That's among the reasons I despise Kamala Harris. She's she's kind of flaming out in this role. She seemed like she had a fairly adequate ability to do Senate stuff as a senator. Questioning people. She's kind of known for that because she has that prosecutor. She has that cop badge. But she's just rotten. But this is the ties things together. This is some Rat King solidarity about to coming up here with the way Kamala Harris is connected to this lady who's connected to Uber. And also there's more information about Kamala's role with Uber, because her brother-in-law is a big Uber bigwig. Shocker. Wow, the tales are all intertwined with these ruling class types.
What is not clear yet is if Butler will choose to run for the seat. She has that option.
Okay, that is an important detail for California politics. So here she is getting sworn in. Well, she's walking in. Hey, that's Susan Collins. Hey, look, it's Mitch McConnell. Does he have any idea where he is? Well, call the KKK. I see one. Oh, he thinks it's his childhood in 1840. Well, the KKK emerged after the Civil War. I know, don't get all pedantic about it. Chuck Schumer's behind him. Oh, boy, can't wait to go home and have a sip. Oh, yes, that's my thing. I'm going to look at my mother's photo and have a nice piece of... Okay, I hate Chuck Schumer. His daughter's a big Facebook bigwig. All these people, man. Is it Chuck Grassley? No, he's even older than Mitch McConnell. He does tweets about Iowa farm culture. They're the most like, he talk like this. That's so. All right. So anyway, she's getting sworn in. We're walking up. Is she carrying the Bible? I have my Bible. There's Kamala Harris.
Raise your right hand.
Oh, she's talking.
And repeat after me. Or say, do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? That you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same? That you take this obligation freely,
on my phone,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and
actually, I've got quite a lot of mental reservations. Everything is booked up until I get some treatment for my ADHD.
Faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you are about to enter. So help you God.
I will.
I will.
Congratulations.
What if you said like you just stumbled your speech? Didn't that happen with Brett Kavanaugh? Or no, John Roberts said the wrong thing. Okay, sorry. Sorry, goofy memory. And then they're like the Republicans questioned that it was illegal. It was for one of, I think, Obama's appointment. I don't know, something like that. Look, they did it. The corruption system. We're doing it. Corporations have another one. We made it. Look at these people. She's a good fundraiser. Oh, she's going to do a great job when I'm dead. That's Chuck Schumer saying that. Signed the paper. Okay. And then they give her employee badge. And they give her book of coupons to the brewery bowling alley down the way called K-Strike. I had to come up with something. Thank you. Look, they're doing, look behind, look, Chuck Schumer and Kamala. They're doing the two-handed grab thing. Although he's a desiccated old corpse, so she helps him up the step. Because it's bad for the cameras if he goes tumbling backwards. Although it would be great for ratings. Thank you, Chuck. We're gonna do it. We're gonna sell lots of laws to our corporate masters, aren't we, Chuck? That's right. All right, that's fun. That's fun. She got sworn in. Isn't that sweet? So here's her work with Uber. This is from the San Francisco-ist. I don't want to make the obvious joke there. I'm sure they're tired of hearing it. The headline, 4 October 2023. New Senator Laphonza Butler defends her work for Uber, plus the whole living in Maryland thing. So she, the mainstream news is just like, oh, look at this. We got a new lady. She's Emily's List. She knows how to give a speech. She's really comfortable around politicians and rich people. That's good. That's a professional fundraiser. Aren't we lucky? Blah, 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 blah. But then people go, well, wait a minute. She was part of this anti-worker controversy, or let's call it controversy, but this movement among corporations to prevent California from actually honoring proper employment classification laws for gig work and for other jobs. And so if we scroll down here, let's just start with her. She deserves to have her voice heard. She says, when I agreed to take on this role in serving, I knew that I was agreeing to do something incredibly difficult. Although I doubt she said that part out loud. That I was going to agree to step into the shoes of the leader who had taken San Francisco through some of the most traumatic times in its history. Yeah, Diane Feinstein dug the first grave back in 1794 when the first white person needed a grave. Late 1700s, San Francisco certainly was probably a much smaller city. That's my guess. I'll have to ask some of my urban planning friends. The traumatic time. So yeah, she did oversee the attempts by people who were not happy that the city of San Francisco was aggressively flying, including it was part of a display of flags, the Confederate flag, but they kept putting it up, and she like prosecuted the guy who, or they wanted to, it was just insane. Butler told the Chronicle, and so I agreed to do something hard, but the labor movement built me for hard things. The liberals in the world just go, oh, so it's labor movement, so good. My husband hires people. My wife was in labor for a little while. That's so. But then I like this editorial writing here though. Nice evasion, says the writer, who deserves credit. Joe Kukura, maybe. But the labor movement claim may be somewhat at odds with her consulting work for Uber during the 2019 AB5 controversy. This is a fascinating bill, this AB5 thing. I'm going to be talking about this in a good bit more detail after I already know quite a bit about it, but I want to do a little bit more reading. I want to make sure that I'm accurately assessing it. But that's very relevant to California workers, for sure. And that means to workers all over the world, and especially America, because California being such a big state, people give a shit about what happens here. If it were its own country, it'd be like one of the bigger countries in the world. Where California legislators gave more employment rights and benefits to gig workers and rideshare drivers against Uber. Oh, little typo there. Oh, there's an R after okay. Against Uber's wishes. And very curiously, the Chronicle points out that Butler did not specifically say what her work on the measure entailed. Maybe Uber hired her to tell them to knock it off. Hey, Uber, don't do it. No, keep exploiting these people. Keep imposing this stuff. Oh, just a quick note. This is somewhat related, but check out the Seriously Wrong podcast interview. It's a great podcast overall, but they had Cory Doctorow on. It's SRSLY. It's like a goofy spelling of seriously. But you'll find it. They're pretty popular. But Cory Doctorow is one of my favorite dudes. He's a very accomplished writer. He writes fiction and nonfiction stuff, but he covers like tech and futurism and sort of stuff. Like, so if you're in my brain kind of person, I hope if you're watching this, you might be. But the interview he did on the Seriously Wrong podcast is so fascinating. He coined his term in-shitification about how internet companies sort of and then he just lays it all out. It's like in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the podcast. It connects to all the themes that I like talking about. And very curiously, the Chronicle pointed out that, okay, that's not what Butler. And then, okay, so here she is. I guess she was asked by the Chronicle. I've been very clear that they should have the protections of employment, Butler told the Chron. I've spent my entire career, nearly 20 years, in the labor movement, working to make sure that workers who wanted a union have the opportunity to have a fair shot to build one. My work on AB5 was exactly that. Sure it was. Laphonza Butler, Senator. I'm sure you did. I'm sure that the giant corporation backed by huge venture capitalist demons paid you to make sure that workers had more power and access to their rights. I'm sure that's the truth. This AB5 is actually fascinating, and we'll jump back into that in a second here. Another mini controversy, though, just a little bit more information. She wrote, quoting from the article again, she wrote a supportive letter to a judge this past May on behalf of disgraced former LA City Council member Mark Ridley Thomas, who's looking at a 3-year prison sentence for corruption. Let's see what this link tells us. Oh, Eyewitness News 7. Hold on, we got audio.
So Mark Ridley Thomas has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for his corrupt dealings while serving in government. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda has the story.
After years of investigations, court hearings, and being found guilty in a jury trial, Mark Ridley Thomas today learned his fate. He was sentenced to 42 months in prison.
We are deeply disappointed in the current state of affairs.
That's the son of the guy.
Related to proceedings in Mark Ridley Thomas's trial.
Ridley Thomas was convicted for voting in support of county contracts that would favor USC. In exchange, USC would use some of that money at a nonprofit run by Ridley Thomas's son, Sebastian. Marilyn Flynn, the former dean of the social work school at USC, pleaded guilty and was sentenced last month to 18 months home confinement. The prosecution says Ridley Thomas committed serious crimes and has not accepted responsibility and has shown no remorse.
Mr. Ridley Thomas was an immensely powerful politician.
Martin Estrada, U.S. Attorney.
Who chose to violate the law to benefit his son rather than the public good. The defendant leveraged his political
What about the public son? Just give the son to the public.
clout, his ability to deliver taxpayer dollars to get a USC dean to deliver personal benefits to his son.
In court, Ridley Thomas said he does not believe he crossed the line into illegal conduct, and he apologized to his family and everyone who has supported him.
So he's going, do I have a big set of legs behind me? Visual joke. Okay, so she wrote a letter, Senator Laphonza Butler wrote a supportive letter supporting the guy who helped, who got caught. The detail that jumped out at me was that it was with USC, which just shows you just how like that's also a major part of that Rat King solidarity is that the education institutions have gigantic piles of money. There's all these endowments. There's huge, they're giant landowners. There's a lot of money is flowing in the form of like rent for students and stuff. There's a whole, I mean, the way that we allow financialization of our education and the entire fucking system is just like all just flaming out in the wrong. And it's actually working as it's designed. It's not really flaming out, but it's just all bumping up against those entropic boundaries that the way I kind of conceive of stuff. And it's this churn. It's just big. So he was corrupt with some other, I don't know, maybe that's who that lady that pleaded guilty was that was on the other side of that. But, and these jobs usually pay well. You know, if you're in the position to be corrupt, I understand someone who's barely getting by, or maybe they're only making 60 or something. And like, maybe they just get tempted by something. I kind of get that, but these people all have like high status, pretty well paid jobs. But they still can't help themselves. They still got to try to squeeze it as best as they can. We just have a society that encourages this kind of criminality. So anyway, Laphonza Butler supported this dude. Or, you know, tried to not influence. I mean, people are allowed to. It is influence, but it's. I don't think it's necessarily bad. Where you can like offer your opinion to a judge in terms of asking for to influence their decision on how much time they're supposed to spend in bars. If I ever end up being put away, I would hope that my wonderful listeners all write letters to my judge and say, he's a nice guy. He loves the cat, even though he doesn't want the cat. Just do that for me. But here's what she wrote or says. In response, she said to the Chronicle, I would say to people to look for the humanity at every opportunity. He's a human, don't you realize? And if the world is insistent on judging us all on our worst day, redemption would never be possible. It's not like he had a freak out in a road rage incident, which would maybe not look great, but you can kind of understand someone has a stress meltdown on the highway and punches a little girl in the face who's just trying to buy ice cream because she thought you and your Tesla was an ice cream truck. What am I saying? But yeah, okay. So she tried to help the corrupt piece of shit. So yeah, they look out for each other. Rat King solidarity. A little bit about AB5 though. Gig worker. This is just, I'm not going to go too deep. This is 11th September 2019. September 2019, a critical month in this story. Gig worker wage and benefits bill passes both chambers of the legislature, likely to become law. I'm not going to read it all here, but the bill is now poised to become law. KPIX reports that employees and independent contractors bill was passed. Bill AB5 was passed in the state Senate Tuesday, and that the Los Angeles Times just reported that the state assembly approved it shortly before noon Wednesday. Governor Newsom said he would sign the bill into law, which he did. Shockingly, he signed something that actually improved conditions for workers. I doubt he would have this year. It seems like he's just been going crazy for it. But for their part, very much affected companies, Uber and Lyft, have immediately responded by slinging a combination of compromise offers and utter falsehoods. What? Hold on. Corporations driven, sitting on top of gigantic pillows of venture capitalist money from Wall Street and other VC scumbags around the world were being dishonest? I can't believe that. Well, we should lower their taxes. We should let them write all the rules, shouldn't we? Lyft has reportedly sent drivers an alert claiming that you may soon be required to drive specific shifts, stick to specific areas, and drive for only a single platform, such as Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, or others, which AB5 does not require. So they lied to their people. Lyft is also now claiming they'd be willing to give drivers paid sick leave and benefits, an offer they were not making prior to the bill's passage. Sometimes just the threat of a bill can also provoke some kind of response in these companies. Of course, they never have any intention. They don't give a shit. The more stress workers are in, the better these companies do, because that stress lowers leverage. That's basically all it comes down to. I see. This is the stuff I need to research a little bit better before I start flapping my gums. But I think what followed after AB5 was the Prop 22 campaign, which was also incredibly deceptive. I'm pretty sure. But here's the Rat King solidarity bit. For their part, Uber just wrapped up a conference call where Chief Legal Officer Tony West (parentheses who yes) why did my who go so high? Who yes is Kamala Harris's brother-in-law. Oh, what? Famous Senator Kamala Harris, future Vice President of the United States of America, most powerful economy and military on the planet. Her, I'm going to guess, sister, maybe her brother's married to the guy. I don't know. Her sibling married to a Uber dude. And then Kamala Harris is sitting there swearing in a lady who worked for Uber. There you go. Where's her brother-in-law? Look at this John Oliver looking motherfucker back here. Where's her brother-in-law? Is he sitting in the back corner? Is he up on the rafters with the other vultures? Red eyes glowing, making money. This place is so fucking corrupt, man. This whole country. So yeah, her brother-in-law is a big Uber guy. I just have a little headline here. Uber paid, let's see, Newsline, March 16th, 2021 by Caroline Spiezio. Sorry, Caroline, I'm sure I said it wrong. Uber paid CLO, that's Chief Limbo Officer, Tony West, Kamala Harris's brother-in-law, that's his full name, $12.3 million. That's a lot of money. I think that's legal. I think, Chief Legal Officer. So Chief Legal Scumbag at Uber Technologies. It's funny how a car that's just like just a replacing cab, short purchase transportation. It's a transportation company, but they're actually a technology company. Interesting, isn't it? I just remembered the Cory Doctorow. That's why, okay. So he was talking in this Seriously Wrong podcast interview. And any other interview with Cory Doctorow is great. Look him up. Just Google his name or I'm sure there's stuff on YouTube. He's one of my faves. I'm going to do that more. He kind of was not in a pedantic way. He explains things really well, but like he's very thorough. And he was kind of explaining feudalism and capitalism being kind of two different things. And he was sort of saying that like capitalists in the medieval times, or the sort of, I think that's like an outdated notion for this context, especially. But in the 1800s, late 1700s and 1800s, as things were coming up, he was talking about rentierism. So owning something allows you to make money because you can then charge money to use the thing you own without actually doing anything. And so the owners and the capitalists, so capitalism though is exploiting labor by using things that, so it wasn't really I'm not doing a great job describing it, but he referred to like Uber and Lyft as feudalist companies, not really he wasn't saying they aren't capitalists. This was in no way a defense of capitalism, but it was an interesting distinction that I had not heard before. And coming from him, someone I really respect, it's a concept I felt compelled to share in my podcast. But that like they're feudalist because they make, that's right. So the serfs and their feudal lords, the serfs owned their stuff. They didn't own the land on which they worked, but they owned their shit. And they were required to then fork over a chunk of what they produced on their land to their feudal lord in order for the protection. It was essentially a mafia system because those guys, the feudal lords, were the ones who organized the violence systems of that kind of state power. They weren't quite necessarily a full-on state as we think of it at the time currently. And there was some tension between the gilded landowners, the gentry of those times, and their like capitalist sort of power structure that was emerging as factories and as other things, as capital sort of became an ascendant part of the aristocracy. So the aristocracy, I mean, it's not all just like one big switch. Why do I keep referring back to one big switch? But so he was kind of saying that like like Uber and whatchamacallit, Lyft and these companies, they're feudalist because the worker owns the capital. They don't actually own the capital of the car. If Uber owned the car that you use, then they're capitalists. It's sort of a slight distinction, but it was the way he was describing it was really interesting to me because I love learning these nuances and such. So like the fact that the worker provides the car, you own the car, you pay the insurance, you pay for all the upkeep and the maintenance. So you actually own the capital, but just like the feudal systems of the serfs and the lords, the serf owned their machines, or they're not, their tools. They're probably animals, I suppose. I imagine there was maybe some times where maybe they didn't or not, but they owned their stuff that they used to produce stuff on the land that the Lord then got the benefit of without having to do the work. So yeah, he was just differentiating that. That's why I thought of that interview with Cory Doctorow. Plus, I kind of want to maybe do like a thing where I like share stuff I listen to during the week, because I'm always listening and watching shows and stuff, and it might be kind of a fun way to talk to the audience. Maybe something else I can do. Yeah. So anyway, Tony West was paid $12.3 million, mostly in the form of stock awards, in 2020. So that's a lot of money. That's a pretty good money. And your sister is a senator, former DA, who's future vice president, possible future president. Seems like the Democratic Party, or at least the machinery of the liberal sphere, doesn't really. She certainly seems to be not ready, or she's always saying crazy things or showing her colors as a terrible retail politician. Her strengths seem to be like being I don't know what I'm trying to say, but these clips of her constantly go around where she just like is speaking complete word salad. Tomorrow is the time to do things today that we didn't do today because the present is before tomorrow. And if we don't do it tomorrow, we have to do today's tomorrow. What I just said made more sense than anything she's ever said. Not ever, but those clips that go around of her, they're all funny, and maybe we'll get back to them eventually.
For us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
So we'll just read one more paragraph here. This is not new information, but I have a nice voice. West, who is also the brother-in-law of U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, the timing is tripping. Oh, yeah, 2021. So she was the, okay. I was saying she was a senator at the time. Who knows? He probably worked there while she was a senator. Led Uber's successful efforts to get legislation passed last year that cemented its driver's status as independent contractors. Okay. Yeah, I think this is Prop 22 then. Yeah. Okay. See, this is the bit where I need to get that timeline worked out. And I will. For good reasons. So, what the fuck? Rat King solidarity in action.